As you can imagine, over the last 5 years, with making over 150 videos about moving to Winston-Salem and thousands of people watching these videos every month, I get calls from people all over the country thinking about moving to the area. And with relocating here myself with my sons in 2019, as well as helping hundreds of others do the same thing, I've come across some common mistakes that people make when they're thinking about moving to the area. Let's talk about them in hopes that you can avoid them and make your move much, much smoother. And if you need help buying or selling real estate, my contact information is on the screen and in the description, but also down there you'll find a community relocation guide and also a link to my Google reviews. But let's start with the first mistake that people make, and that is wanting to look at houses first. Now, you know, when you're thinking about moving to the area, one of the things that you're going to do is you're going to hop on Zillow, wherever you like to look at real estate, and you're going to scan, do I like these houses? Do I like the surrounding area and stuff like that? Of course, but sometimes I'll get a call from people and say, hey, we're coming to town next weekend. We'd like to see some houses. We're thinking about moving to the area. And really, that should not be the first step. Simple reason why is, one, it's not the house that matters the most first, because if you're just thinking about moving here and you want to go see a house, that house is not going to be available when you actually decide, and if you decide to move here. But the most important thing is deciding, number one, if you want to move here, but two, when you have that narrowed down, is deciding the actual location that you want to be in. The Winston-Salem area is really varied, and while it's a smaller city, it encompasses a much larger area when you count the small suburbs and small towns that are around here. You have everything from downtown living to rural living and just about everything in between. So really, the first step should really be, once you decide you want to move here, is what kind of location do I want to be in? What do I want to be near? What are my priorities as far as that goes? Whether it's like, you know, restaurants, amenities, schools. Think about how you're going to spend your day-to-day life in Winston-Salem, and what do you enjoy being around where you live at now? What would you like to change? So really start to think about location first, so we can kind of chunk that down and just understand it doesn't have to be a very specific neighborhood, but really just a general part of town or the suburbs, or if you prefer, a smaller town. Some of my top priorities were, I want to be 10 to 15 minutes from Costco and Trader Joe's in a really highly rated school district. So that eliminated like the downtown area for me. And while I'd like, you know, all the convenience and everything, that restaurants and everything that are downtown, the schools didn't match up for me, and also the kind of congestion didn't fit for me, so I had to move out, and then et cetera, et cetera. So really think about the general location first. What parts of town are you going to spend time on? Do you have to commute? You know, do you have to get on 40 every day to commute to work? And where do you want to be really close to the school? What schools do you want to be in? And different things like that. Really think about general location first, then we can narrow that down to actually look at homes. Next mistake I see people make when they're thinking about moving to Winston-Salem is they're looking to max their budget. And I know not looking at houses and not maxing out your budget might sound odd coming from a real estate agent who gets paid on those two different types of things, but I'm not a fan of maxing out your budget. Number one, besides budget concerns and pure affordability, we have to understand that there's just no perfect home. Almost every single home that we can look at is going to need something. It doesn't matter if it's brand new construction. You might want to add some landscaping, or you might have to buy, you know, refrigerator, washer, dryer, or things like that. So you have to plan on spending some money outside if the house needs some repairs. You know, maybe we're going into inspections and we find out some things are going to need to be fixed. We have to plan for those. Of course, we're going to try to negotiate, and we can often get some of those repairs and credits done, but maxing out your budget is just a bigger recipe for more stress and just more pressure put on you, especially when you're coming into a brand new area. You know, if the house is absolutely perfect, it checks every single box, has all you want and then some, maybe there's a case then, of course. So I don't say never max out your budget, but I am just not a fan of it. Oftentimes we can come in under budget from what people want and still find them a great house. My point with this is just plan on spending a little bit of money, no matter if it's a brand new house or a house that we know that's going to need some work. There are going to be some unforeseen things that you're going to have to spend some money on. So not maxing out your budget just allows you to plan for that a little bit better. And I'll also say that it's different between spending more than you intended and maxing out your budget. I did this exact same thing. When I was buying my house, I had a price point set in mind. I just was not liking what I found in that price point. So I increased it, and then I increased it again, but I increased my price point. Still didn't have to max out my budget, thankfully, but I did jump up in price from where I was originally looking to find just what I wanted. The next mistake people make when moving to Winston-Salem is forgetting that you are not alone in this. And of course, while yes, it's you and your family doing this, but really understanding that I have your back from start to finish. I don't care if you're moving here a year from now and you need to talk to me, or if when you're here, you need to text me at 9 at night. I mean, real estate does not sleep. I want you to know that I have your back. you're not alone. Because while, looking at houses and finding homes can be the fun part, going to tour these houses and things like that, the real work starts once we get under contract. And if you're in a situation where it could be in multiple offers or, things like that, we might go from showing to offer to under contract really quick so things can start to move quickly. And I don't want it to get stressful for you. So just remember, rely on me, whether it's helping get a team in place for appraisers, inspectors, insurance, or helping you vet those same people that you're thinking about using. I'm happy to do it. You're not bugging me. And I will tell you, I'm not going to say I'm exactly in your shoes because it's happening to you, but I am with you. Being able to relate and empathize with where you're at is definitely one of my strong suits. So don't forget, you're not in this alone. Rely on me. We're going to be besties for a long time while you are going through this process. You're not bugging me. So whether it's moving timelines, an inspector, or do you, close first and then move in, or do you want to try to move in on the same day? Just go ahead and ask. I got your back. You're not alone. Next mistake people make when moving to Winston-Salem is not understanding the current market conditions, because they can change drastically, even sometimes depending on season, let alone what's going on in the economy and world and everything like that. But not understanding current market conditions is a big mistake. And right now when I'm recording this, we're in one of these transition periods. We're just finishing up what I like to call deal season. In, January, February, where not much is going on, to getting into the busier part of the spring market. It's one of the reasons why I make the market update videos so often, not because I like to talk about the market, but I want you to understand where we are in more real time. And then when we get together and we talk about, your actual move, we're going to discuss current market conditions then too. Very specifically, what's average days on market? What am I seeing? How many showings are on a typical house right now? How many offers are they getting? Are they going over asking? We're going to keep you updated on the current market conditions at all time, starting from just really when you're considering the move here. So when you say, hey, I'm coming in, 3 months, we'll make sure to update you on the market every step of the way, so you're always aware of what's going on, because it can and does change drastically throughout the year. Don't forget, Winston-Salem is a really unique market. It's in a state where a lot of people move to, North Carolina, but it's in a kind of under the radar area. So while it doesn't get the attention of Raleigh or Charlotte, it doesn't have the dynamics that does, it does have its own very unique dynamics. And it's important to understand that as you get further into the process, so you're not taken by surprise when we actually get into showing homes and making offers. Next mistake people make when moving to Winston-Salem is forgetting that the purchase process in North Carolina is much, much different. And primarily what I'm speaking about is North Carolina is one of only a handful of states that are caveat emptor or buyer beware states. The big thing to know with that, and we're going to discuss this in much greater detail when we talk, but the big thing to know is our contracts don't have built-in protections for buyers like so many other states do. We don't have an inspection contingency, appraisal, or financing contingency. They're not in the contracts. Every house in North Carolina is as is, where is, and we do a separate form of negotiation called due diligence. So it doesn't mean you just buy the house how it is and can't ask for anything done. That's not what that means. And again, we'll discuss it in more detail so you understand it. But the due diligence process here, which I've stated it multiple times that I'm not the biggest fan of, but it is what it is. We can negotiate and work around these things, but understanding that the due diligence process here is different. One is you have to buy it. It's part of your offer, but get applied towards your down payment and closing costs, but you do have to spend the money. You have to buy these protections here kind of in North Carolina. But suffice to say, I talk to people sometimes and they'll say, well, we'll go ahead and get the offer, and then if we don't like on inspection, we can walk away. Well, yes, you can, but it's not quite as simple and cut and dry and neat as you might think. We'll talk about it more in detail, but don't forget, North Carolina is very unique when it comes to the rest of the country in real estate purchases. Next mistake people make when moving to Winston-Salem is only thinking about the popular neighborhoods. And maybe this one is kind of a semi-mistake because, if you really want to live in this certain neighborhood, that's fine. But there are some really popular neighborhoods in Winston-Salem. They're the big ones or the more well-known ones when you Google search or when you look at different ones, and they're great. Some of them have really distinct personalities and features and locations and all these great things, but I think it is a little bit of a mistake to only consider those type of neighborhoods. Maybe you want that type of vibe and that location, but there's so many other smaller hidden gem neighborhoods around here. I think it would be doing yourself a disservice to only say, I want to live in West End or Washington Park, Ardmore, Buena Vista, wherever it is. Just saying I want to live in those would be a little bit of a mistake. Now, again, if you're absolutely sure that's where you want to be, that's where you want to be, and we'll go there. But there's such varied housing in Winston-Salem and so many different little smaller neighborhoods that, some of them have names, some of them don't even have names, but they're still in a great location. location. They might be right next to the really popular neighborhood that you were talking about. Just sticking to those. Maybe it might be a good starting point, but branch your way out from that. And I was just telling someone the other day, a lot of times in Winston-Salem, it's odd that the neighborhoods here don't even have definite borders. It's like, oh yeah, this street is part of that. Oh, maybe it's not. And some of it's kind of up for interpretations. It's a little bit different than what you might be used to because they're not these big, large master plan communities and neighborhoods like maybe where you're coming from. But suffice to say, if we get the general area down, like in point 1, we'll be able to find a great house because there are a variety of houses all throughout the area. And if you need help buying or selling real estate anywhere in Winston-Salem or surrounding area, remember, I got your back. You can reach out to me directly at jeff@govalentino.com. Thanks.